everyone, and welcome to episode 254 of Level Up, 60 minutes of live Q&A where your questions drive the show. My name is Ellie Bowett, and I will be your host for today's discussion. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can find out more about what we do on our channel, so please do give this video a like and subscribe to find out more about us. My colleague Blanche is in the social chat, so please let her know your name and the city from where you're joining. She will post a link to vote up the questions that you would most like answered, and of course, for you to add your own questions in. If your question is selected, your name will appear in the credits at the end of the show, so get yours in early and stay with us to see that happen. Today's show is all about why certifications matter when building your career in 2024, a topic very close to my heart as I've spent the last 20 years working in the certification industry. Clearly, with this background, my view is that the right certification helps you to stand out in the crowd and shows potential employers or customers that you have the right competence or capability to do the job. But I'm not the expert here today. Luckily, I'm joined by a fantastic lineup of expert panelists. So let's get straight into the session and jump over and meet them. So kicking off today's introduction is Mike Batistella. Mike is the president of Solutions Cubed, an award-winning IT service management and cybersecurity services business. Working in federal and commercial markets, Mike is also responsible for government solutions at the DBMS Institute. Welcome back to the panel, Mike.
Ellie, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation today and working with my guests here.
Lovely, thank you. And next up is Cath Patel. Ketan is a business change consultant with Marlowe Consulting and is a master practitioner with the Change Management Institute. A passionate educator and advocate for exemplary change practice, he works to push the boundaries on advancing the profession. Lovely to have you with us again, Ketan.
Yeah, really good to be back. I love this topic, so looking forward to speaking about it.
Excellent. So next up, we have Dr. Chris Muller. Chris is an independent educator, lecturer, and consultant who promotes international mindedness and global citizenship. Having worked in Asia, the Americas, Africa, and Europe, Chris was selected to be a TED Innovative Educator and serves on the TED Ed Advisory Board. That one's hard to say, Chris.
Well, it's great to join you here. Thanks. I like what you said about standing out in the crowd. I totally agree with that.
Excellent. Okay, moving on then to Ian Clark. Ian is the director at Fox IT Service Management in South Africa and a well-respected contributor to the IT service management community across Africa and worldwide. With a focus on improving productivity, Ian leads a team of professionals who engage with each client to improve outcomes. Welcome back, Ian.
Thanks, Ellie, and welcome to my esteemed colleagues and the guys out there joining us today. Looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so joining us for her first appearance on Level Up today is Sarah Olaifa. Sarah is a project manager at HMRC, leading complex projects to ensure successful implementation while adhering to regulations. Sarah is particularly proud of achieving two milestones recently. Firstly, landing her first management position within the civil service, no mean feat, I'm sure. And secondly, launching a podcast series showcasing her passion for neurodiversity in the corporate space. So welcome to the panel, Sarah. It's great to have you with us.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to answering these questions, actually.
Excellent. And finally, completing today's panel is Cath Convery. Cath is a co-founder of Explosive Learning Solutions here in the UK, an organisation working in risk, change and project and contract management, who've helped thousands of professionals develop their career in project management. A trusted coach and mentor, Cath now leads on contract management, providing expert advice, education and training to her clients. Welcome back to Level Up, Cath.
Thanks so much. I think this one's been really exciting. I've spent a lot of my time talking to people about whether they might want to do a certified course or not. So I think this topic's really useful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And of course, our Level Up Your Career show would not be the same without our question master, bringing all of your live questions to our panel. And today we're joined by Shanice Mitchell-Cox, who joins us from the lovely countryside in Wales. How are you today, Shanice?
I am good. I'm really looking forward to learning with everyone today. I always say learning is better when we do it together. So yeah, excited to learn with you all.
Fabulous. Thanks, Shanice. So shall we take our first question for the panel, please?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Ellie. So we've got a question from Falco. How do I know which certification is valuable for me and which is a waste of time and money?
Lovely. Great question. Thank you. We will go Ian and then Mike, please.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think that what's valuable for me is kind of in your own hands, depending on your focus, where you want your career to go. Is it your current role? But I would certainly spend an inordinate amount of time doing my research in terms of, what particular certification in what particular field or topic is going to add more value to you and your career. Obviously, that can be done through sites like APMG and various other educational institutions. And obviously, a big driver is going to be what is the employer or the market want. So those are things I would take into account. Which ones are a waste of time and money? Well, the ones that you don't think are going to add value, I would imagine. But yeah, that's my view.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. Mike, on to you for this one, please.
I think Ian nailed that one. The one that you want or the one that you need could be two very different things. The one that you don't want is the one that somebody's pushing you to get, get the certification, and it has nothing to do with your job function or what the needs of the business are. So it's really focused on where are your passions, where do you want to grow, where do you want to take your career? And it may not be the big name certification just because everyone else has it. You've really got to look at the value the certification brings and how it is going to help you professionally, but also tie it into the organization.
Lovely. Thanks so much. We've got more panelist hands going up here. So we'll go Cath and then Sarah and then Ketan. We'll have a full panel answer on this first question. So thank you.
Thanks, Ellie. I think this is a fascinating question because for me, we've got an abbreviation in some of the industries that I work with, which is called SQEP, Suitably Qualified and Experienced Personnel. And I quite like that abbreviation. So I'll often say to people that are transitioning from one industry into another, just sit down and do some type of skills audit of your experience. What experience do you have? And then can you match that with a certification? Because the reality is, if you're transitioning or maybe returning to work, then quite a few HR organizations or HR in organizations will be using AI to filter people's applications. So it could well be that you need a specific certification that shows that you have the experience that goes alongside the experience that will get you into that bucket that will allow you then to get the role that you're aspiring to have. So I agree what's already been said, but I think if you're transitioning or maybe you're returning to work, or maybe you're coming, my background is as a veteran, maybe you're coming from the veteran community into a different sector, then this skills audit that says, okay, what do I think I've got experience in? And do I have a certification or indeed a qualification that matches that proves that, is where I would start.
Lovely. Thanks, Cath. Chris, your thoughts, please, for Falco.
I do believe that it's important to have relevance and value, as previous speakers have said, but I also think we need to look at the level, the quality of the certification. And in these times of AI and everything, the quality ranges from pure uselessness to incredibly valuable experiences. So you've got to be very careful how to judge the accuracy of the certification that you're seeking.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. Sarah, your thoughts for our please.
I find a lot of these qualifications quite expensive. And so when you're making these decisions, you need to kind of think about some form of career planning. So if you know exactly where you want to go and what type of career you want for yourself, try and look at sort of job descriptions and see within the job requirement if it requires you to have that particular certification. It's about knowing yourself, knowing exactly what direction you want to go on to, and knowing if it aligns with the goals and the values you have for yourself when you're making decisions about taking on certain certifications, because essentially you want to get a return on your investment. You don't want to spend thousands of pounds on certifications that just are not going to bring any value to you. So really really carefully plan exactly what it is you want to do in terms of your career. Look at job descriptions that are kind of similar to the career path you want to go to, and see if that qualification is needed for you to get that job role, so that you're not wasting your time doing qualifications that don't make any sense to you, and also that you're not wasting your time, money, and energy on something that's not going to take you to the pathway that you are sort of hoping to achieve, or your long-term goals that you're hoping to achieve in the type of industry you want to get into. And I'm assuming that's project management. So if it says, I want to be an agile project manager and you need to do an agile Scrum certificate, do that, because that means you're going to be getting roles that are looking for Scrum Masters with certificates. I hope that helps anyway.
Yeah, thanks very much, Sarah. Okay, Kat, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, because value is really difficult to judge. It's such a personal sort of statement. The one thing I think is really crucial, and I think Shanice kind of said it, learning is best done together, probably before the call started, but that for me is really key. How I don't go and do a certification unless I genuinely want to learn, and then I genuinely want to figure out how to apply it in practice. So value comes from being able to know I can take what I've learned and apply it in practice, but I'm also going to learn from people who are going to give me examples about how this stuff works in the real world, because a lot of certificates are kind of the theory of what you're doing. So value, I think, is about evaluating who's delivering it for you and what mechanism. I think if you've done what some of the other panelists have said, is where does this fit in your career trajectory? How does this add to getting you the next job? How does it demonstrate what you need to do? What you really want to do is make sure that the learning experience is really going to cement the ideas in your head, and that you're going to create a group of people who you can reinforce that learning with, or you can sort of talk to. I think this idea that we can do sort of these sort of certifications, I mean, online works, and it works for different styles, but I've found the most value when I'm with other people, sort of learning through with them. And I think that's where I get value from these things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, Ian, can you finish us off on this one, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to what Cath was saying earlier about skills audits. And I know we talked about the value for me, and obviously that's contextual. The scenarios could be plentiful in terms of transitioning and so on. But what I wanted to raise was the SFIA. So the skills framework for the information age. You know, if you go onto that website, they've got some really good content and advice around, if you're in a particular role, these are generally across the industry what the skill sets are. And then you can use that as a basis to try and do an audit or look for the right certification. So I don't know whether we can put that website up somewhere at some point, but yeah, I think it's quite useful. I know a lot of companies use it.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody in the social chat can drop it in for us. Thanks for that, Ian. And thanks, Falco. That was a great question that clearly triggered a full panel response from today. So that's brilliant. So let's move on to our next one, please, Shanice.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ellie. We've got a question from one of our regular viewers, Milvio. How do you demonstrate your applied knowledge in a certification, particularly at an interview?
Okay, so after you've got the certification, how do you then demonstrate it? Okay, Mike, can you kick us off with this one, please?
Sure. We staff for some federal contracts, and I got to tell you, over the last 2 years, I've probably done 200 interviews. And leveraging that certification and demonstrating it in an interview is talking about the things that you've done, the things that you've accomplished. What I found in reviewing these interviews is that reviewing these resumes is many times that resume is loaded with certifications. And I'm gonna coin a term today that we're flirting with that certification, or we're flirting in that industry or that technology space. And folks are gathering up these certifications and have no practical knowledge. So are they serious about it? Are they passionate about it? When I look and I see 23 certifications, how can we really be a practical, hands-on expert in all those different areas? So I think the thing that you want to do is focus in those areas that you're strong with, and Ian said this, passionate about. Get those certifications that apply to the job that you're going after, and don't flirt around with it. But talk about the things that you have accomplished, the value that you've added to the organization, and how this employer can benefit by the skill that you bring in and the practical knowledge that you have that maps to the certification.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. That was great. Kat, we'll hear from you next, please.
Yeah, I just want to probably add a more sort of practical thing you can do in an interview. So I think if there's a certification that kind of is relevant to the job, one way I think about it is this thing called STAR format, which is situation, task, action, result. And if you think about structuring your answers where the action relates back to something you picked up from the certificate or that is being asked about, it really helps demonstrate how did the certificate and your application of it apply to resolving a business problem. And if you can kind of demonstrate in your answers, it's a really powerful way of just really connecting quickly. And actually even writing out sort of 250 words, situation, task, action, result. It's really simple to do and really gives you some good confidence about how to demonstrate these skills in an interview.
Lovely. Thanks, Kat. Sarah, can you close us off on this question, please?
Yeah, I definitely agree with using the STAR methodology. It really does help, and it will kind of cement what it is you've learned on the certification that you've done. I would also add that you can kind of align with what kind of sort of methodologies that you've used whilst giving examples of the work that you've done. So, for example, if you were a Scrum Master or you used a certain Agile methodology, speak about that in your interview and show that you actually understand what you learned and what you gained from doing the certification, as well as learning about how you've applied it to real life scenarios. So I really do agree with what you're saying here. And I feel like that would kind of show you in good steadfast, because it shows that, oh yeah, I understand the theory, but I also used it in a practical way as well.
Thanks, Sarah. That's great. Ian, did you also want to add something to this question?
Maybe, yeah. Just to add on to what Mike was saying, I think it's common nowadays that we've got these wide range of certificates. And as Mike said, we kind of zoned in on two specialities or a set number of specialities. So it's good to know a broad range of various topics and concepts, but it's always good in an interview that I have found is if someone can really demonstrate examples of how they have applied what they have learned in a real life situation, and explain them in a level of detail that really resonates with the particular person or the company and their context. So, showing that you have done and not just learned theory is a massive thing in an interview. And it's something that's becoming very prevalent in the industry with all these certifications flying around. Interviewers have coined onto, I want to see examples that you know exactly what you're doing. So the more you can do with that, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely right. Thanks, Ian. Thanks, panel. We're just going to move on to our next question. But if you are watching us live, please do say hello in the chat. Drop a comment, drop a question. We love to know who is watching us. Shanice, can we welcome you back for another question, please?
Of course. Thanks, Ellie. We've just had a live question come in from Shannon. How can professionals balance the time and effort spent on certifications with gaining practical experience?
Yeah, great question, Shannon. Thank you for that. Cath, we'll come to you first, then Ketan, please.
I think it's quite a challenging question, this one. I like to think that an organisation, if it indeed is the organisation that sent you on your training course, which will outcome a certification, is likely to also want to coach and mentor you after that course. So if that's the case, then I would really encourage people to set up some type of action learning set, or maybe a lunch and learn, where they can bring problems into the space and discuss that problem with colleagues who might be acting as mentors, in order to take that knowledge that they've gained, the individuals gained from the training course, and make that application jump. But before you get there, I think that a good training company that's delivering certified courses is going to do some contextualizing for you. And I think we've already mentioned this in a previous answer, but they will start that helping you apply that knowledge into, how do I use this in a working scenario? So for me, this is twofold. Number one, it should have started with the training company that you're working with. And number two, when you get back to your workplace, I would hope that they would start to apply some type of mentoring scheme, whether that be through some type of action learning set, or they're asking you to take your top 3 things that you're going to apply in the workplace, and then how can the manager help you apply that? So I think it's quite a complex question to unpackage.
Yeah, lovely. That's some great practical tips there. Thanks, Cath. Ket, let's hear from you, please.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it really short because I'm probably repeating a lot of what Cath said. But I think for me, it's about before going on any kind of course, it's like really thinking about, well, when will I get to apply what I learn? If you don't think about that up front, if you don't have live examples in your business you're struggling with where you think the course might help, if you don't have live problems within your professional sphere that you don't know how this will help, I think what you'll struggle is to make that time afterwards. And then it will just descend into, well, it's just something else I'll have to pick up at some other point, right? So you do need to think about it in advance. And ideally, you do think you need to have some sort of problem you're trying to turn this knowledge to afterwards. And then, of course, like you said, as Cath said, like, organizations that do this well in the training space will bring, situations to you to think about. They'll ask you to bring them to as well, right? Bring them to the learning. So I think it starts before, during, and after. You do have to make time for the kind of act applying it.
Lovely. Thanks so much, Ket. Mike, can you just close us off on this question, please?
Sure thing. It's something that has worked for me incredibly well over the years. I've written a lot of courses for the vendors and then gone out and delivered and done consulting projects. So when I go through a certification course, I have that mindset that what I'm learning today, I will be teaching tomorrow. What I'm learning today, I'm going to be doing implementation or consulting projects tomorrow. So as I'm going through each section, let's say a service desk, for instance, I'm learning a new service desk. I'm literally laying out what my project plan is going to look like, any kind of forms or tools that I'm going to use to be able to implement, how I'm going to build and do the training on this thing. So again, not flirting in and out with just memorizing the content or memorizing the answers to the question, but actually applying it in a theoretical. And as a matter of fact, we have right now we have 8 interns going through various areas of cybersecurity and ITSM, and literally trying to teach that methodology where you're learning and applying, even if it's in a mock scenario, but you're building that expertise as you go.
Thanks, Mike. That's super helpful. I think, Ian, you would just like to add something to this question quickly?
Yeah, the reason I want to add this is because there's a company in Cape Town in South Africa that I was talking to this week who take on interns and they reverse engineer the certification and the experience for the client. So what they do is they go to the client and say, okay, you're looking for guys who are going to work in your environment on a Python, Java, or whatever it may be. What we're going to do is we're going to go and find a whole bunch of people. We're going to train them on that particular subject matter. And we're going to allow them to carry out a project for you, not business critical, where they get to actually do the work using the skills that they've learned. And it's all tuned into what the client's looking for. So I was totally enthused by this very simple, logical approach. And they're learning something and it has meaning for the client and they're practicing doing it. So I just thought it was a really cool way to go about doing certification and training. And yeah, we're going to hopefully start to partner with these guys soon to add more value to that roadmap as well. So I just wanted to share that. It's an option.
No, thank you for sharing that. That's a great example of an organisation doing it. Thank you, Shannon, as well, for that question. That was a brilliant question. Shanice, can we just invite you back for our next question, please?
Of course. Thanks, Ellie. We've actually got a question from Cath, who's on our panel. I often hear from people, I'm transitioning from one industry to another, but I have a host of experience. Isn't that enough? What do you think?
Oh, great. Cath, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's a really challenging one, and I've sort of answered it in a previous answer, but no, unfortunately, it's not. I think that often people that are transitioning need to give some consideration to the organization they want to go work for. It's plausible that they want to go to work for a family firm or a very small company where knowing people is as important as showing that you've got the qualifications or that you've got the experience. It's about your network. But for larger organizations, actually having the certification, as I've said previously, to get through the door is the important part. So it really does depend on who is it you're trying to work for. And I think Sarah said this earlier, thinking through that pathway and then going and looking on LinkedIn or similar platforms to see who's asking for that certification is probably the way to go. So you work out your qualifications or your certifications, you work out your experience, and then you apply it into the industry or grouping that you want to work in. But if your uncle's the person that's giving you the role, or your best friend's wife, or something similar, then you probably don't need to do it. So it depends. It's always complicated, Ellie. It depends.
Yeah, it always is. It depends. But that was a great answer. Thanks, Cath. Ketan, we'll come to you and then on to Mike for this one, please.
Yeah, I would love the answer to be no. You shouldn't need to demonstrate it in that way. If you've got the experience, you should be able to demonstrate. I'd love that to be the answer. I think Cath and other panelists said, like the market is a busy place. You've got to be able to demonstrate skills in certain areas. I think it is really important that you don't overburden your CV with thousands of certificates, because you can't possibly use them all. So I think it has to be credible. They have to be relevant. They are an important part of being in front of the right people to show that you are that credible and relevant candidate. And I think that's kind of their role in the market. But I also think it's equally important to build relationships with people and get people, because you can use your experience too. So it's not either or. I think as Cath said, it's both.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, in the real world, if we were looking at hiring somebody to fit a new boiler or something, we'd want them to have a certain qualification. And then when they came and we experienced their work, that's when we would invite them back. So it is both, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Mike, can you close us off on this one?
Yeah, I'll keep it short. I wholeheartedly agree with what Kat just shared. I've interviewed plenty of people where, they have 10 years experience, and I'm equating this to years of experience. Yet I've dealt with folks that have, 1, 2, 3 years experience that have far more capability than the one with 10 years. So we're equating, time with capability, and that's not necessarily the case. So I wish it weren't the case. But if that's what the the hiring employer is requiring, that's what you got to deal with. Now, what I would say to somebody that has that experience, go into that interview, if you're able to get that interview, and commit to, hey, I don't have it today. I've got all of this experience. I can demonstrate it through the projects that I've done, but I will commit that within a certain amount of time, I will obtain that certification.
Yeah, a good idea. Thanks, Mike. Okay, Shanice, please can we have our next question?
Of course. Thanks, Ellie. We've got a question from Mike. What are some common misconceptions about the value of certifications, and how can individuals differentiate themselves to be more impactful?
Okay, great question, Mike. Thank you. Ian, we'll come to you first on this one, then Ketan, please.
Just my gut instinct on this one is I don't think a lot of people looking to see what certificate, whether it be employers, they don't truly understand the certification and the level of that certification. So there are many certifications out there that you could argue are an introductory foundation certification. And the employees don't understand the meaning of that. And then they automatically assume that someone has the practical capability to apply their knowledge, which is certainly not the case. So I think to differentiate yourselves, to be more impactful, I would suggest that people have meaningful certifications that require application and a detailed understanding, and incorporate some kind of practical element of literally in a lab showing that they can do something in a given sort of context or situation. So that's kind of my advice on differentiating yourselves. But I think it's a two-way street. I think employers really need to do a little bit more work on understanding the certifications that they're asking for, especially the people doing the interviews.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There is often a case, isn't there? Well, I took that one, so you should have it as well.
Absolutely.
And really, what's the value?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. So, Chris, we'll hear your thoughts next on this, please.
I think one of the more common misconceptions is look at how many people have succeeded in life without certification. And it's very easy to find the odd person here and there who has become professionally mega successful without that. But I think we've got to keep that in context. With as an employer, I will always look for certification which gives me some form of guarantee that this person is on the right track. And just relying on somebody who maybe learned things through YouTube or through googling the right things, it's not going to work in general. There may be the odd exception, but that's often held up as too much of an example.
No, I totally agree, Chris. Thank you. Sarah, your thoughts, please, on this one.
I think the most common misconception about certification is the fact that people feel that if you're certified, then you have the ability to do the job, and that's not necessarily the case. And then you might look at someone else and think, oh, they're certified, so therefore their career is doing well and they've done really well. And I also might add, because I cover a podcast on neurodiversity in the workplace, there are a lot of people who are neurodiverse that are not very good at doing exams, but they're very well skilled in their job. And sometimes that certification doesn't always reflect on the capability of that person and the success that they've had in their career. There are some people that are highly successful and they have neurodiverse conditions like ADHD and dyslexia, and they're able to like work through work super fast and their brain is so hyper focused and stuff, but when it comes to doing certifications, they just can't focus on it. So I feel like a lot of the time when people look at certifications, there's a misconception that because you're certified a certain way, that means you have this skill set, but actually doesn't always reflect that. You might just be good at doing exams or getting certified, but you might not be very good at doing the actual role itself. So there has to be a balance, and I think overall you need to have a holistic approach when you're looking at your career and how you want to succeed and what success looks like for you. So I would say that about how it changes from one person to another.
Yeah, Sarah, that's an excellent point, and it's certainly a challenge for the certification industry to ensure that we are bringing sort of equality across the certification levels to ensure that people can take them. Great, thanks. Great for the great answer. We are moving on, I think, Mike, to close us off on this one.
Yeah, real quick. I agree with everything that was said. Again, kind of flirting with certifications, right? I compare it to in the cybersecurity space. Somebody has compliance and they equate that to I'm secure. Just because you're compliant doesn't mean you're secure. And just because you have the certification doesn't necessarily mean you have the skill set, So unfortunately, a lot of organizations have begun teaching to the test. So where certain certifications had a high level of respect in the industry, are now they're teaching to the test. So we're pumping out all of these folks that have the certification, but they don't have the skill set. So again, I'm going to say, don't flirt with it. Go full board, all in.
100% agree. Thanks, Mike. Ed, you just want to add something to this one?
Yeah, I think a really important common misconception, I think, from the learner's perspective is you learn a bit of theory, you go into the organization. No organization works like that. Like every certification you will take, no organization works exactly the way it says in the book. That's not the design of it. The design of it is to give you confidence. You understand the theories that are expected to happen. When it meets messy reality, then that's where the experience of how to apply it in practice works. And I think that's really important because you can take some negative experience away from your own capability if you think, hold on, I've learned all this theory, I can't apply it because it just doesn't look like how I'm meeting in the world. So I think don't take that view. Just realize this is how ideally it would like to work. No one's got that kind of figured out in real life in most organizations. So you've got to figure out how to blend what you know with what you're seeing in front of you. And that's the skill of applying a certification. That's don't take that common misconception as a knock to your confidence.
Absolutely. And good certifications should set you up with a toolbox of things that you can then apply in the real world rather than prescribing. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Okay, Shanice, I think we've got time for one more question.
Amazing. So we've got a question from Johanna. I'm an entrepreneur transitioning into the workforce without experience. Can you recommend a certification to validate my extensive entrepreneurial skills?
Ooh. Entrepreneurial certification.
Wow.
Yeah, what a question. Anybody got any advice for...
Is that APMG's new certification about to...
I think we're now ideating now. Thank you.
Yeah, now we're just coming with that one.
Sounds like a gap in the market. Cath, we'll come to you.
Yeah, I think that everybody's a bit blown away by that question, but I don't want to leave you hanging. So the whole concept of entrepreneurship, I'd probably want to unpackage a little bit more with you what you actually mean by that. Is it that you have brought a product to market? Is it that you have set up a business in your own right? What is it that you've done? And to go back to Sarah's original comment, what's the journey you want to go on? I hate using that phrase, Ellie, I apologize, but where are you trying to end up? So if you think that if the question is about I have set up a business before and I've launched a product, then you might feel that you've got a skills deficit in stakeholder work, for example. And it could well be that you would want to do something on stakeholder management or indeed change management. But it really does depend on where you're trying to go. So it's not just about the starting position, it's about the end position that you need to be on. And what do you personally mean by entrepreneurship? Because that could be a whole host of different things.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, Cath. Sarah, your thoughts, please.
This is a very interesting question because I was having a discussion with a friend a while back in the world of portfolio careers and the interchange in between being an entrepreneur and working for an employer. I think if you're coming from an entrepreneurial perspective, and it really depends on the world of entrepreneurship, and what you want to do, similar to what Cath was saying, is that if, for example, you're an entrepreneur, maybe showing skill sets, for example, were you a board of directors in certain companies that show that you help that organization to kind of move you away from your entrepreneurial journey back into the corporate world. And it just really depends on the pathway you take. So you've got to kind of show like, oh, I've done certain things as an entrepreneur. I've been in company boards of directors of companies. I want to move from there to work for an organization, and take those entrepreneurial skills as skills that you can use in the workplace to maybe help that company move forward as well. And it really depends on what area of business or what role you want to go for. So I would kind of say that to that person, because we are kind of turning into a kind of landscape where we're going from a sort of portfolio style career where we could maybe work a bit in the corporate space, but also we could have our own businesses or what people might deem side hustles as well. So that's how I would probably answer that question. But it's very difficult to say because you just said entrepreneur, so it's not very specific.
No, that's okay. Thanks, Sarah. It's a great answer. Brilliant. Chris, can you give us your thoughts for Johanna, please?
I do believe that entrepreneurship is a mindset. It's not something you can necessarily study and get certified in. Where you need the certification is in the area of your expertise that this entrepreneurship is heading towards. As an educator and an ex-headmaster, to me, it was really important to develop entrepreneurial skills in students at schools so that they grow up with this kind of thing, so that it becomes second nature to them by the time they leave school, and then they can focus on their area of speciality and move on from there and get the right kind of certification. But I think it is more of a mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. It's not about the skill, the certification in entrepreneurship. It's about the thing you're trying to be an entrepreneur in. So, yeah. Okay, Ian, over to you on this one, please.
Yeah, just to add to Chris, the term entrepreneur, I certainly agree as a mindset. But, I think a lot of people's views on an entrepreneur, I started my own company, whether it be releasing a product and a service. And as an entrepreneur, you get involved in many things: finance, projects, developing new products, designing things, and. So, you develop many skills, under this banner of an entrepreneur. But the question is, you want to validate the certification. So I would look at, if you're heading into a corporate, how do I validate my project management and product design skills? Then go look for the certifications that would validate that based on what you're looking for. It's a why, there are entrepreneur kind of programs at most universities and higher educations, but I'm kind of reading the question like that. You've got to look at, what did you do as an entrepreneur that you're taking into the workforce, and how can you validate that to the employer? And that's where I would kind of lean more towards.
That's great. Thanks so much, Ian. Brilliant answers, folks. And thanks for the question, Johanna. That was definitely a challenging one for us at the start. Shanice, can you come back and There's another question, please.
Of course, thanks, Ellie. We've got a question from Falco. In an employee market, as we see it nowadays, where are certificates necessary to get a job?
Okay. Where are certificates necessary to get a job? Are there kind of regulatory sections that, you must have certain things in place? Or do we think that that's a requirement for getting past the gate, as we've said earlier? Mike, over to you, please.
Yeah, a lot of times I think it is just getting past the gate, but again, it depends on the industry that you're in. In the cybersecurity space, you've got to have some basics. But then there's others that, as long as you have that expertise, you're going to walk into it. There's sales certifications. There's all different levels of certification. So it really focuses on what the job is that you're going after.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's very industry specific, isn't it? Okay. So our final question for today, please, Shanice.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ellie. We've got a question from Falco again. In the age of AI, where every information is closer to your fingertips than ever before, why are certificates relevant for career building?
Yeah, great question, Falco. Thank you. We will go Ketan and Cath, please, on this one.
So I think this is a really, really important topic, right? And I'm going to put the most crucial to it is a trust. The information is massive. You can go YouTube, you can go to so many places to learn. Where do you go to trust what you're learning? And a certificate is a core created set of content around a topic that's designed to give you all of the bits that most people have spent years pulling together. So that trust is crucial in this age. And I think whilst AI is good and it can provide you a lot of answers very quickly, right, when you want a solid foundation of knowledge in an area, certificates are the way that you can get that. And, a lot of hard work has gone to pulling them together. So I think this is a really, really important distinction around just getting information out there wherever you can get it and getting something you can trust and reproduce and share with others, right? And that's why they're really important still in today.
Yeah, absolutely. Cath, we'll come to you next on this one, please.
Yeah, I really like what you've just said about trust, and I'm going to add a little to it. For me, it's that piece that says that you're validating those skills. So it's the trust that the market has with regards to the validation of your skills and the information that you have spent time looking at. That will allow credibility for you, but also if you've done a certified course, then another organization, i.e. somebody like APMG, have evaluated that both the training organization that's delivering that course and the assessment that you've undertaken is at a set industry standard. And that makes a real difference to organizations being able to say, yes, you have done a certain amount of learning, whether it be by hours or you've come up to a certain level of knowledge area. And that structured learning really gives you some type of almost a curriculum basis that that an employer can trust, that allows you to know that you've done everything that the industry you're trying to go into wants you to do as that start standard, because it is only a start standard. You're going to carry on learning. I'm a big believer in continuous professional development. You'll continue to learn, but this is that trust piece that says, okay, it's been validated by more than just me searching Google. It's been validated by a second organization that said, this is the body of knowledge you need in order to do that thing, and that you've proven that you've got that body of knowledge by having a qualification, a certification that's linked to that body of knowledge. And I have differentiated there between certification and qualification intentionally.
Yeah, thanks, Cath. That's really helpful. Sarah, over to you on this one, please.
The interesting thing when you say AI, what does the A stand in AI? It's artificial. So we actually need human intelligence in a lot of the things that we do. We don't want always the artificial. And we should actually also see our AI as a tool rather than a replacement for what comes with human intelligence and the nuance that come with that. So it's important that you do get those certifications because it's a nuanced approach and you actually understand what you are learning. You're not relying on something artificial to say, oh, I know this. It's a toolkit. It's not something that you rely on. And I know people feel that AI is going to take over, but there's still that human element that we need, because you are working with people, you're helping people deliver projects, you're helping people make their companies better, not just relying on the artificial intelligence and just seeing it as a tool. And that's what I would say in terms of building your career. The hiring manager or whoever wants to work with your organization, or you want to work with them, they want to work with a person, not with a artificial, bot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Mike. We'll come to you and then Chris.
Yeah, I think the answer to this question is in the question itself. In the age of AI, information is at your fingertips. So that has nothing to do with the knowledge, capability, or skill set that you have. It's that you could search in an answer very quickly, but have no idea how to apply it. And even when you think about the way we're doing interviews today, most of it's online. So literally typing out the question or capturing the question through AI that's being asked and have it give you the answer, you could master the ability to have a conversation intelligently and have no real knowledge or skill in that area. So I think the question itself is telling.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And also, of course, the more AI advances, the more organizations are using it to filter who they're interviewing in the first place. So actually, certifications are valid in that way as well.
And I just want to add one quick point to it. Just to the listening audience, there's a real difference between, a certification that you get from a vendor, let's say. And the vendor certification says, I've taken the course and I've passed the test. A real accredited with what APMG International is doing and whatnot. An accreditation says that there's validity in this, that you have taken the material and you understand how to apply the material and you've gained that skill set. So I just kind of share that, separate the idea of certification with accreditation. Go to accreditation bodies, get the training and the certifications that have real value and weight to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mike. And also, I think, looking at the certification you're interested in and the qualification level it's associated with, because some of them are designed just to test knowledge and some of them are designed to test practical application. So being aware of what's in the certification is important as well.
Yep.
So, Chris, can we come to you for our last answer on our last question, please?
That's right. And I'm going to be very brief because most of it has been said. But I think in our day and age, there is a lack of trust. And people think that through some self-training through the internet is sufficient to be able to give an opinion on a medical condition that without taking the advice of a doctor. And I think that's a real problem. And that's where, as an employer, I need to look at the certification and validate what it's really all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Great. Well, thank you, panel. That was wonderful. And I would also like to thank all of our audience who submitted questions today for our panel. There were some fabulous questions in there. You are the producers of our show, and it couldn't work without you. Great job. And do watch out for your name in the credits if your question was selected. So, panel, it's time for your closing remarks. So let me start off then with you, Ketan.
Yeah, I don't really know how to sum all this up, but I think it's such a great discussion because it is an ongoing challenge in sort of job hunting and career planning, right, where certifications fit in this information age. But I think, making sure that it's relevant to your career, making sure you've got opportunity to apply it, and making sure that you trust what's being told to you, they're really important factors in which one you choose and who you choose to do it with. And I think that's been true, and I think it needs to be reinforced as we kind of move through and information becomes much, much more accessible to people.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Kat. Sarah, your thoughts on your first appearance on Level Up?
This is a wonderful panel. So thanks so much for having me here. But what I will say to sort of close my closing remarks on this is that take your career from a holistic approach. So know that certification is very much important, but also balance that as much as getting the experience as you can, and have a really plan your career accordingly. So if you have to speak to people or put yourself in an environment where you can gain experience and also get opportunities to qualify and certify yourself, then do so.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Sarah. Chris, your thoughts for today, please.
As much as certification is really important to start off a new career. I think what we mustn't forget as well is the whole concept of lifelong learning, where you need to maintain your knowledge base with further certification along the way. And I think it's really important to see it as an ongoing process, not as now I've done it, I'm done, and let's move on. It is a lifelong process.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Over to you for your closing thoughts, please, Mike.
Yes, great panel discussion. Really appreciate it. I would just encourage everyone to remember that the cert cracks the door open. You still have to have the skills and the knowledge and understanding to get that door open. Now, once you're in there, you still have to strengthen, build, grow professionally. And I'm going to coin something today, and I'm going to do it here live with APMG International. Don't flirt with your cert, because remember, a flirt with a cert is just a flirt.
That is, Mike, that is no doubt going to be on our LinkedIn feed at some point in the next week, turned into a beautiful infographic by our marketing team. So watch out for that. I'll get them to tag you in it. Awesome. So thanks very much for joining us. Ian, your thoughts on today, please.
This is like Bridgerton. There are a million characters out there, all looking for their own costumes and their own characters. So who are you? What costume do you want to wear? Where are you going with your career? So, do the homework is my kind of, look at the costume that you want to wear and where you want to fit in, and plan accordingly. That's my advice. That's my Bridgerton analogy. There you go, Mike. Flirting with Bridgerton.
Thanks, Ian. That is amazing. And we know what you're going to be going and watching this evening when you finish.
Absolutely.
Right, Cath, finish us off, please, on final thoughts.
See, we really should have finished with the last two speakers, shouldn't we? No, awesome discussion as always. I mean, we focused in on the individual, and that's a really important part of this question. But I think maybe in part two, we'll come back and talk more about why businesses would want people to do certified courses as well, because there is a piece there that says the business also really wants that. I hope we've given people food for thought across the board. And that's, I think, what we've tried to do. A lot of the same themes have come up in our answers, but it's been a nice rounded discussion. And, we've shot for that goal throughout, which I think is really important. Thanks, Ellie.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Cath. Sorry, leading nicely into the football that I believe is starting this evening. So, Shanice, as our question master for today, how do you sum this one up?
Oh, it was so good. I think the questions came in so fast. It was hard to keep up, but the panel done a great job as always. So thank you for learning with us today. It's always just the best way to spend a Friday.
Yeah, thanks so much. Panel, you've been absolutely fabulous. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope to see you all back again very soon. Okay, so audience, some things to take away from today to help you to level up your careers. Over on our website, you can search for the answers to over 2,500 questions from previous shows. So it's a free resource connecting you with experts from around the world. So don't forget to head over there. And also you can listen to an audio version of the shows on your preferred podcast platform. So we're coming at you from all over the place. We do have some fantastic events coming up in the next couple of weeks. On Monday morning, Level Up will be back with part one of a very hot topic, using AI and automation in business in 2024. And if you're currently working in project management and considering what skills you need to build in your career, then I would highly recommend signing up for our next event on Wednesday, the 19th of June, where we'll be diagnosing problems in projects that are running and suggesting skills to help project managers overcome these issues. You will see the links in the chat to register for both of these events. Finally, if you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to head over to our YouTube channel and give this video a like and subscribe to see more. And also, if you're sitting there thinking those panelists look like they were having a wonderful time and thinking you might like to give it a go, please do go to the website and register. We'll send you a personal summary of what's coming up and how you can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. Thanks, everyone. See you again next time.